prophesied there would be peace in the end of days. But Ed Gordon, a member of my congregation who lives on Hawthorne Street, knows that in this atomic age, we don't have that much time. As a professor of agriculture on loan to the United Nations, he realizes that peace is not easily obtained.
Dad, we made the front page in the Standard. We only made page 2 in the Examiner, but they ran your picture. Gordon to head UN team in Asia.
That's nice. Did you see a blue folder?
I know just the one you mean.
Seals at the door.
Rabbi, sir, please come in.
Morning, Helen.
Daddy, the rabbi's here.
Ed? Good morning, Rabbi. I was going to stop by the temple to say goodbye.
I can see how busy you are.
Helen, my plane tickets are on the bureau upstairs. And would you ask your mother to come down?
Isn't it wonderful? Dad's famous.
Sit down, Rabbi.
Thank you. Well, you're finally on your way, Ed, huh?
Yes, I've been consultant to the UN on this project for years. Now it's ready for the field, and suddenly they say to me, Ed, why don't you go out there and run it yourself?
It has a very familiar ring.
Before you know it, you're running the committee. Instead of advising on policy, you're making it. Suddenly you realize it's your own project. You understand it better than anyone else. You're the logical man to make it work.
From what I've just read in the papers, it sounds like a powder keg over there.
Rabbi, it could mean war or peace in that part of the country. You've got thousands of miles of jungle and swamp. Millions of people who live constantly with hunger and disease. They're constantly teetering on the edge of war. Why? Basically because they're always hungry.
And the solution? It reminds me of the prophecy of Isaiah. They shall beat their swords into plowshares.
Yeah. The tools are different today. The goals are the same. They need tractors. They must learn the techniques of soil conservation. Turn a wilderness into a breadbasket.
Hello, Rabbi.
Elizabeth?
Oh, please excuse the looks of the place. Helen, could you get that, please?
Liz, what's this for?
Well, you never can tell when you might get a cold night.
In a jungle?
Daddy! Daddy!
Yes?
A man from the TV station. Can I interview you at the airport?
Make sure they know my plane leaves in an hour. Excuse me.
It's rather hectic around here this morning, Rabbi.
You should be proud of him, Elizabeth.
No, we discussed it for weeks. But in the end, it had to be his decision. Well, I realized that it's vital, even possible, that in the long run it could mean a difference between peace and war. I realized that.
Well, then you should be happy. You should feel honored that Ed can play a leading role. Elizabeth, I don't think he realizes it yet, but he's going to need every bit of support he can get.
It's just that a man is leaving his family, his home, his comfort, his security. I keep asking myself, why does it have to be my husband? I guess every woman has a right to ask herself that, doesn't she?
Darling, that's no way to pass.
And I just dropped in for a minute to say goodbye and to wish you Godspeed.
Oh, Rabbi, before you go, we need someone to take a picture.
Honey, time's a wasting.
It'll only take a minute. It's all set, Rabbi. Just push the button.
Right?
I want to have a picture of the three of us just as we are now.
Hey, you sound as if I'm never coming back.
Smile at the birdie, Dad.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Gentlemen, you each have a copy of Phase 1. This requires the clearing and cultivation of 100,000 acres, a modest beginning. Abdullah, your group is responsible for liaison with local governments, tribal leaders, and clan chiefs.
Our plans are set, Ed.
Frank, is all your lab equipment ready for shipment?
The supply house promised us delivery this morning.
Well, expedite it yourself. Get that shipment personally onto the boat. Kim, how about your tractors and implements?
They're loaded and waiting on the dock in Singapore, ready for the freighter.
All right. We'll check out engineering, maintenance, proposed dam sites, and all supplies before we adjourn. You each have a number. You'll all set up your individual headquarters on the corresponding numbers on your maps. Water for the fields next summer. I thought you were going to have those tractors out there.
Ed, you've got to tell them to send us more mechanics to service the equipment. And while you're at it, Ed, I can't get any cooperation. You try to teach these people the fundamentals of soil conservation, and all you get is the bit that goes. For hundreds of years, our ancestors...
I know. Abdullah, I thought you were getting cooperation from the tribal chiefs.
We're not going to get people who have been feuding for years to work side by side overnight.
Ed, are you all right?
Sure, I'm okay. I'll be all right. Now, where were we?
In the weeks that went by, I didn't hear from Ed Gordon, but of course he was probably much too busy to write. I did see Elizabeth and Helen at services. Soon I began to notice the young man who was sitting with them.
His name was Bert Phillips. He'd moved to town a few weeks after Ed had left. He found a job on one of the newspapers, and from what I could see, he had also found something else.
Very nice sermon, Rabbi.
Rabbi, we're going to call on you to perform a service for us.
Well, I'll be happy to. You set a date?
Oh, in about a month. That's as soon as Dad can arrange for a leave of absence.
My congratulations to both of you.
Thank you.
So, Elizabeth, that'll be home soon, huh?
For just a little while. It can only be a short leave. Rabbi, could you have dinner with us one night next week?
A couple of weeks at home, and I'll be back in the groove again.
You can order him not to go back, Doctor.
No, Elizabeth, I can't. You're not a boy anymore. It's a decision you'll have to make for yourself.
I have seen my physician, and I regret that I will be unable to continue actively on the project. However, my associates are sufficiently well trained.
Well, then you'll arrange for the list of speakers for the Brotherhood Study Group, Rabbi. Yes, just let me make a note of that, Jack. Now, was there any other business we ought to discuss?
Well, yes. As you know, Rabbi, my term of office as president of the temple expires soon.
You've done a splendid job.
Thank you. But I can recommend a man who will do a better one. As a matter of fact, I've discussed it with a nominating committee, and it was unanimously decided to offer the job to Ed Gordon.
Ed Gordon?
Don't you think he'd make a good president?
Ed's returning to the Far East right after his daughter's wedding next week.
No, I believe he's changed his mind. The job is just a little too strenuous for him.
Oh?
Well, do you think we could have picked a better man?
No.
You weren't in your office, Rabbi, but they said I'd find you around here somewhere.
Oh, Ed? Jack Winters tells me you're going to be the next president of the temple.
Yes, I feel deeply honored.
I understand you're not going back to Asia.
It's one of those things, can't be helped. Fortunately, we've got the project off the ground. I dropped by to invite you to dinner at the house Thursday night in honor of the young couple. Can you be there?
Of course.
Then, I'll see you.
Yeah.
You know why I'm not going back.
Jack Winters says it's unwise.
I'm not that sick, Rabbi. There are men under me who are far worse off, but they're not quitting.
You say you were quitting?
Yes, Rabbi. Walking away from the job, quitting. For weeks, I waited for an excuse to get out of there. God forgive me, I used my own daughter's wedding as a pretext to come home. I knew as soon as I'd washed that jungle mud out of my clothes, I was never going back. I would find a way to quit. But a way to quit with honor.
Quit?
You said they shall beat their swords into plowshares. But tell me, who can beat their ignorance and superstition into wisdom? Who can calm the hatreds of centuries? You've known me since college days, Rabbi. I've never lived for myself. I've always tried to serve. I can serve now in a new position. My friends believe I'm qualified to be president of the temple. It's a worthy position.
Yes, it is. But one can serve God and his fellow man in many ways. Judaism teaches that to seek peace and pursue it is the most important religious obligation.
See? You think I should go back?
I'm not the one who's telling you to go back.
I went there to help. I went there to beat their swords into plowshares, but it can't be done. Their hatreds are too deep. They'll fight, Rabbi. It will spread and blow up the whole world. You can't tell me otherwise. No one who sits home... We were just like them. Young, eager, filled with hopes and plans for the future. And all the while...
Ed, that's all in the past.
The year after we were married, I was in uniform.
Oh, well, it won't happen again. It can't happen again.
Don't say that, Elizabeth. It is happening. No one pays any attention. No one tries to stop it. Can't you understand? Too many people in this world still live too close to poverty and hunger and hopelessness. I've been there. I've seen it.
But what can you do?
Just a very little bit. But every infinitesimal bit helps. If even one man...
Ed, do you mean you want to go back there?
Helen? Bert? I've been trying to think of a wedding present.
But you and Mother have already given us the silver and the linen.
Oh, that was to be expected. I'd like to be able to give you kids something really important.
You've given me the most important thing in the world already, Dad. You and Mother. You made it possible for me to grow up in a home that was filled with love and kindness. Oh, I'm glad you're back to stay.
Well, is everyone ready for some food?
I'm starving.
I'll give you a hand, Mother.
Nice party, Ed.
What kind of gift do you give two young people just starting out in life, Rabbi?
You and I, Ed, our generation, I wish we'd given them a better world.
Why do you keep telling me to go back there?
Why do you insist that I'm the one who keeps telling you? Our God and God of our fathers, grant that our worship on this Sabbath be acceptable to thee. Help us to be among those who are willing to sacrifice that others may not hunger, who dare to be bearers of light in the dark loneliness of stricken lives, who struggle and even bleed for the triumph of righteousness among men. Grant us peace, thy most precious gift, O thou eternal source of peace, and enable us to be its messenger unto the peoples of the earth. Bless our country, that it may ever be a stronghold of peace, and its advocate in the council of the nations. May contentment reign within its borders, health and happiness within its homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship and fellowship among the inhabitants of all lands. Plant virtue in every soul, and may the love of thy name hallow every home and every heart. Praised be thou, O Lord, giver of peace.
Amen.
Come in.
Hello, Rabbi.
Elizabeth.
Hello, Rabbi.
Ed.
Rabbi, Elizabeth and I have talked it over, and we've come to the conclusion that there is a most important gift we can give our children and their children to come. That is, we can try to give it to them. A chance for peace.
Each man must seek peace and pursue it.
Elizabeth will fly as far as New York with me.
I remember once many years ago I said goodbye to Ed. He was leaving for a fight then, too. But this time, it's a fight for peace.
Thank you, Rabbi. You've told me a great many things.
Ed, I haven't told you anything that wasn't already in your heart. They shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war any more.